Hi, welcome to Second Sunday, live from the virtual museums, Cantor Art Center, and the Anderson Collection at Stanford University. In this 20-minute program, we will be taking you through the art-making process. Now it is my pleasure to introduce you to Maggie, who is the Cantor Curator of New Media and the lead curator for the current exhibition at the Cantor Art Center, When Home Won't Let You Stay.
The show is about migration, which means movement from one place to another. The show includes art by artists from over a dozen countries all over the world. Some of the art they make tells their own stories of moving from one place to another, and some of it is thinking about what their old homes were like and how they feel in their new homes. It can be a hard choice deciding to leave and go to a new place, but most of us have moved at least once in our lives. And if we haven't, our parents, grandparents, or great-grandparents did. Think about it. Have you always lived in the same apartment or house? Have you always lived in the same town, the same state? What about the same country? Ask the adults in your life. Have they always lived in the same place? If not, where did they live before? Are there things in your house that came from or remind you of places you or your family lived before? How do those things make you feel? I hope you've enjoyed hearing about the new show, When Home Won't Let You Stay, and thinking about home and movement in your own life.
Today we are inspired by this artwork called Woven Chronicle by artist Reena Kallat. It is a big map of the world that the artist calls a drawing. It was actually made using colorful electrical wires that the artist shaped to look like yarn in the process of weaving a map. The threads from the yarn seem to connect places of significance. We can even see balls of electrical wire on the floor that were made to look like balls of yarn. Now let's listen as the artist tells us what inspired this artwork.
I was thinking about the sort of trade between India, Sweden, and I didn't quite want to work with yarn, and yet speaking about pandemonium is something that, post 2008, the collapse, the global economy, and how this sort of idea of the hurly-burly world, but yet um, what emerges through the state of chaos and this kind of imagination that um, and to think of, on the one hand, there's this kind of what appears to be a completely entangled approach has this kind of underlying sense of order. And I began thinking about the movement of migrants historically from indenture labor, agricultural societies, and more um, industrial and post-industrial societies. And I didn't quite want to work with yarn as again, its own associations with women. And I decided to work with the electric cable that is both a transmitter of energy exchange as communication cables, and here morphs into sort of barbed wires and fences. But I was tracing the movement of migrants historically, and and this was based on an industrial map of how territories are, societies that are in, economies that are manufacturing and mining or industrializing, and agricultural societies and so on. So the color gradations came from there, and these I began mapping the flows through various sources and following these migration routes. And yeah, so the work, of course, is travel, like Maggie said, to various institutions. And each time I try and look at, like, for instance, when I showed it at MoMA, the curator, Sean Anderson, was really pointing out how even as we speak, maps are constantly changing shape and form. And the most recent sort of intervention between Sudan and South Sudan, and yeah, he was talking about how one could find a way to incorporate these as we make new iterations of the map. So this was at MoMA, and of course we can talk more about this work with the soundscape and.
Wow. Thank you so much, Reena. That it was so fascinating to see such a deep dive into your oeuvre and your practice, and to see, it's really tight collection of work on interrelated themes, which I find so, so compelling.
For our activity today, we will be making a paper weaving and also weave a story into our artwork. Making a paper weaving is a fun and simple way to learn about weaving. Once you master the basics, you can try more complicated patterns and ideas. The vertical sections are the warp, and the horizontal sections are called the weft. Here are some steps to get you started. 1. Write down your own words on the paper strip. 2. Weave a story with words or drawings. 3. Weaving blends the words you can see with words that are hidden. 4. Create a pattern by alternating over and under. By writing your thoughts on the strips of paper, you are sharing your own story, just like the artists did. What is your family's migration story? Ask your family members to share with you their stories of migration. Now let's check in with Alyssa and see how her art making is going.
Hi everyone, happy second Sunday. My name is Alyssa and I'm a student guide at the Cantor Art Center and the Anderson Collection. And today I was inspired by Woven Chronicle and the second Sunday activity to weave a version of my own story. So if you guys would like to try that yourself, go ahead and follow along and I would be happy to show you what that process looked like for me.
To start off, you'll need scissors, a sheet of any kind of paper, and some things you don't mind cutting up. When I was making my own art, I wanted to write things and draw things that I felt represented the person that I am. I wrote words about places I feel I belong to, such as the border of the US and Mexico and South Texas, my home. And I drew little designs of things I love, like the sun and the color green. I also used torn pages from one of my favorite books as well as pages from a sketchbook that I kept beginning in January of 2020 that I just used the last page of last week. I ultimately wanted to weave together different little pieces of me. Our identities are formed by the people around us, by the languages we speak, the places we've known, our experiences as humans. And I'd encourage you when you're weaving your own story to ask yourself, what are the different threads that make up your identity, that when they come together make the fabric of who you are? What are some pictures, materials that represent parts of you that you love? Whatever you choose, I hope that you have fun weaving. I definitely did. And happy second Sunday.
Weaving has been a valued skill among human civilizations for many thousands of years. Here are some woven objects from the Cantor's collection. Notice the caption under each object. Many of the containers that we use for the same purpose today are made from plastics. Cultures around the world have passed weaving skills from generation to generation. Here is a piece of cloth that was woven about 1,700 years ago. If you look closely, you can see the threads of the warp and the weft as they cross over each other. One of the best parts about making art is sharing it with others and seeing how your art inspires their ideas. Now it's time to introduce you to our second Sunday educators. They are here to help us make some art. Now let's watch and listen as they show us how they did this activity.
Hi everyone! I'm excited to show you how I made my woven paper. First, I took a sheet of green paper for my warp, and then I used my ruler and a pencil to draw some lines 1 inch apart so that when I cut the slits, I would have them evenly spaced apart. So here I am cutting the slits in my paper, then I flipped it over for the warp, and then I got a sheet of blue paper for my weft, and I folded it so that the lines would be even, and then I cut them evenly into 8 strips. And I decided maybe I'll decorate it after I actually weave together the warp and the weft. So here I am putting the blue under the green, and I chose these two colors because they reminded me of the earth, and I was really inspired by how Reena Kallat's Woven Chronicles is a picture of the whole globe, and so I was trying to think about the blue and the greens of globes that you sometimes see. And so once I finished putting them over and under, I decided to write the names of people who really mattered to me. So my family members, my friends, people who mentored me throughout my time in high school and college. And I wrote these people's names because I wanted to remind myself that my story is really interconnected with theirs. Without these people, I wouldn't be where I am today. They've contributed to my growth, my happiness, and my learning throughout my entire life. I also think about how even though the world is really, really big, it sometimes feels smaller when we think about how we're connected to people even when they're far, far away from us. Even though I've lived in California my whole life, I have cousins in Illinois, New York, Ohio, Canada, the Philippines. My parents are both from the Philippines, and my dad worked in Saudi Arabia before coming to the United States. And at school, I've made friends with people from Kenya, China, Korea, Pakistan, and beyond. When we think about it, our stories and lives are touched by people from all over the world, even if we've never met them in person.
Hello. We're going to weave paper today. And the paper I have here is one sheet on the left is a magazine, and the other is colored paper. And here I'm drawing my lines so I can cut my loom out of the colored paper. So the magazine paper I found in a National Geographic magazine. They tend to have maps in their magazines about the natural subjects they talk about. In this case, it's about the Amazon rainforest and how humans have had a huge impact on the Amazon and its deforestation. And I'm gonna prep the magazine by slicing it into strips. There we go. And I'm gonna try and keep them in order so that I can weave them into the loom in the same order. And here I have blue strips of pre-cut colored paper. And I'm writing messages on it, talking about the Amazon and the forest creatures that are there and that make it their home. The Amazon is one of the most biodiverse places on the planet and has hundreds of thousands of different species of plants, animals, and fungi. And you can see here I'm weaving all my strips together, going over, under, over, under, over, under for each strip in the loom. And once I get to the top, I'm gonna add a couple more blue strips to even it out. And to me, they seem to symbolize rivers, the blue strips, how they kind of cut through the loom. And I chose orange color as kind of the fire that burns the forest down. And on the loom, it looks like property segments. And here I'm gluing down the edges so that my strips stay in place. And I'm cutting the excess out. And so it's nice and neat. And then I'm gonna write in all the different species of animals, plants, and fungi that are unique to the Amazon forest in each one of the orange squares that kind of symbolize the missing parts, or what we will miss if we remove the forest from the planet. There we go. I got jaguars in there, and macaws, and poison dart frogs, anacondas, all sorts of different animals live in the Amazon. What else do we got? Oh yeah, sloths. We have sloths. And piranha. Wow, so many. Almost done. Well, while you work on the project, think about what makes home valuable to you and enjoy making. Bye.
There are lots of free resources connected to this exhibition. We invite you to become part of the conversation. Visit our website to find out more. Thank you so much for participating, and we hope you all had a fun day. Until next time, we'll see you on the original second Sunday.